Shalom WJC family. Time for our weekly Torah Talk. This week in Shul, we will be reading Parshat Behaalotcha, which begins to tell the story of the trip that the Jewish people will take through the desert, that the Israelites will take through the desert. Finally, well into the fourth book of the Torah, we talk about the Torah as the book of the wandering of the Jews. The truth is, it's just starting. But before they leave on their trip, Moses instructs Aaron on how to light the menorah, the 7-branched candelabra that will be in the Tabernacle, a famous symbol of Judaism that continued on in the Roman conquest. We see it in the Arch of Titus, and of course now on the Great Seal of the nation of Israel. So very important symbol. And here at the beginning of Behaalotcha, Moshe says to Aaron, light the menorah, gives very specific instructions. I want to talk about this lighting of the menorah, but I want to take it maybe in a different direction to understand why the menorah had to be lit before the Israelites could march off into the desert, and also to help us understand a very important lesson about healing. So the question is asked by the Midrash, why does God need a lamp in God's tabernacle? Right? Why does God need the people to light a light for God? God doesn't need the light. And there's a bunch of midrashic takes. One says that just as God shined a light on the Jewish people to say that they were special, so too they should shine a light towards God, to show that our task is to bring God's light into the world. All right. But an interpretation that I really like is that God does not need the light. God just needed to give us something to do. I spoke about this a little bit in Minyan this morning. Every day at Minyan we give a little word of Torah. And there is such a valuable lesson in understanding that even though God, by definition, needs nothing from people, even the Jewish people, if we think we're special somehow, even though God needs nothing from us, God gives us something to do for God, to light this menorah, or we could say the same thing about sacrifices, right? Gives us these mitzvot, not only to raise us up in the merit to tell us how to bring goodness and holiness into the world, but also to give us a sense of dignity in confronting God. Right? You cannot be in a relationship if the relationship is all one-sided. And the whole Torah is the story of God trying to be in relationship with the Israelites, and the Israelites trying to be in relationship with God. So hard to do when one entity, God, is needing nothing and impossible to understand and all those things, and the other entity, the Israelites, are people, just people, needy and difficult and all the wonderful things that make human beings human. In order to make that relationship possible, God needs to give us something to bring so that we can have our dignity, so that we can be, if not equals in the relationship, partners in the relationship. It's a very powerful idea. And it relates to so many interactions between people where one person needs something from someone else. Because we're, God willing, coming out of this pandemic now, and healing is so much on our minds, I want to share another famous midrashic story, this one from the Talmud in Tractate Bava Metzia. It's about Rabbi Yochanan, who was a great healer. When Rabbi Yochanan would go to heal one of his colleagues, we're told, he would come in and he would say, "Is your suffering dear to you?" That seems like an odd question. Whose suffering is dear to them? But the rabbis had this idea that maybe the suffering was a challenge to their faith, a test that they would overcome and then be closer to God, which may sound a little crazy, but the truth is we know in relationships, even human relationships, Sometimes those relationships meet challenges. We overcome those challenges. And in overcoming those challenges, the relationship actually gets deeper and stronger. So the rabbis had this idea that maybe that happened with God too. So God would present God's, rabbis, God's beloved, with challenges, and that would help them understand their relationship with God more deeply. So Rabbi Yochanan would come in, he'd say, hey, are your sufferings dear to you? And they would reply, I welcome neither my suffering nor its reward. Right? I don't care how deep my relationship with God is going to be because I've suffered so much. I'd rather not be suffering. But here's the thing. Rabbi Yochanan would then say to them, Hav li yadach, give me your hand. And he would take their hand, and the ill person would stand up. And why does he have to have him give him his hand? Can't he just say a prayer, wave his hand, say, you're healed, and then the injured person, the ill person would stand up? But apparently not. Apparently, Rabbi Yochanan has to give the ill person a chance to participate in their own healing. It's healing with dignity. And quite frankly, it's also the way the body works. Right? A doctor can bind wounds, as the famous saying goes, but only God heals them. Only one's own body can do the healing. You can cast a wound, you can bandage a wound. You can't fix it. Only the body can do that. Someone has to do it themselves, maybe involuntarily. But Rabbi Yochanan seems to be keenly aware of that a person needs to lift themselves up, or at least feel that they are participating in their own healing, in their own tikkun, the fixing of whatever problems are ailing them. And so too, we learn later that Rabbi Yochanan becomes ill, and another rabbi comes to him, Rabbi Hanina, and does the same thing. Are your sufferings dear to you? Not my sufferings nor my rewards. And Rabbi Hanina says, give me your hand, hav li yadach, and together they lift him up and he walks out of the bed. This is this idea that God gives the Jewish people in Behaalotcha. Right? You need to take part in your own in your relationship with me with dignity. So too, we need to approach people and approach healing with dignity. It never works to provide people with stuff. Look, tzedakah is a wonderful thing. We want to provide people with stuff if they need it. But all the more so, we want them to feel like they are participating in their own redemption, in their own getting of what they need. And in that sharing of dignity, in that sense of partnership, even if it's healing one's own community, that's where real, true energy for healing comes from. That's where true tikkun comes from. And it's something important as we approach the problems of the world today, whether it's in our personal relationships, whether it's as we give tzedakah to try and combat poverty or racism, whether it's in trying to understand the very complicated and difficult issues going on in the Middle East, right, with Israel and the Palestinians, and dignity and each people's dignity, and understanding how to really try and make progress on those issues. All of it requires not the cutting down of people, not anti-Semitic attacks, quite frankly, not anti-Palestinian attacks, but in fact the recognition of the human dignity of both. And that goes in our local community, right? When we're giving food or we're writing checks for those who are in need, that's important and we need to do it. But we also should be reaching out to help those communities partner with us in solving their problems. And it's true at the synagogue, right? When those who are in need of help, it's in everyone participating and everyone being given their dignity, whether they know a lot or know a little, have a lot or have a little, but understanding that we all have value, human value. That is the lesson of the menorah. That is the lesson that Moses is teaching Aaron, that God is teaching Moses in telling him, yes, I need you to light the light. Right? Why do I need you to light the light? Because I need you to know that you are valuable. I need you to know that in partnership we both bring something important. And as we infuse our relationships, our community, this world, with that understanding, that sense of dignity, that is when true tikkun can take place. May we all participate in that kind of bringing in light into the world. May we all participate in engaging each other, even the most difficult relationships. The relationship with God, not so easy. Even the most difficult relationships. May we infuse them with dignity. May we raise each other up, and in doing so be able to raise up this entire world, bringing better times, bringing healing, bringing tikkun, and may we all do it and be part of it, and may it come speedily in our days. Amen.